what becomes clear is that the body's always communicating with us, and not just through pain or contraction, but also through expansion as well. So think about it this way. If trauma teaches the body to brace, then something else can teach the body to expand. And what is that something? Well, I would argue that the opposite of trauma is actually pleasure. And that this is one of those sensations that, often gets treated like it's frivolous or decorative. And don't get me wrong, like it can be. But for the next few minutes, I actually really want to talk about it in, arguably the least sexy way possible. We're going to look at it. We're going to look at pleasure like a biological cue. And once again, you can blame neuroscience for just stripping the sexiness out of this, but I think it's actually really important. You may recognize this name, especially if you're a nerd and you are kind of obsessed with the nervous system. Maybe it's just me, but Stephen Porges, as well as some others, have done some really cool research that shows that experiences of pleasure activate the parasympathetic pathways that signal safety. In other words, pleasure is actually one of the body's ways of saying, I'm safe enough to soften here. I can expand. Ooh, I like this. And actually that understanding kind of signaled a turning point in my journey, because when I was working primarily as a trauma therapist, I watched clients graduate from treatment the moment their PTSD symptoms were considered, quote unquote, resolved. Their nightmares were better and their panic had eased and their bodies weren't in like constant defense mode. But for many of them, they still couldn't enjoy sex and they couldn't tolerate closeness, and their bodies really didn't know how to experience pleasure without fear, or not at all. It was just kind of numb. And yet we discharged them because the symptoms were gone. But the truth is, like, their aliveness really hadn't returned. And I remember thinking, like, this really can't be where healing ends. Ask anyone who has been through some serious shit in their lives, and they will tell you that managing distress is not enough. It's like the bare minimum. And yeah, it lets you keep going, but there's got to be a way. This is where I was at. I was like, there's got to be a way for people to feel safe enough to enjoy and connect. And that's kind of how I got to where I was going, because we tend to think about like neutral misery is the term that Freud used to kind of coin this. If somebody is traumatized, then they are beneath their baseline, right? They're lower in their functioning. And then the goal of PTSD therapy, trauma therapy, is to get them back to their neutral pre-existing baseline, which Freud called neutral misery. But like, that's not good enough. And we know that post-traumatic growth exists. And so I think I have always been somebody who wanted a little bit more and was like, hey, I don't think that we should get people back to neutral. I think we can get people to a place where we're either restoring something actively pleasurable, or let's face it, sometimes people don't have a healthy relationship with their body even before trauma happens. And so can we get them even better than when they started, which is literally the definition of post-traumatic growth. And, it took a minute, but I think I was finally able to argue with myself enough to say, hey, this is, sex therapy is something worth pursuing, because not doing that, it's having a greater impact. It's not just what I believe, not just harming my clients to not be able to experience pleasure, but it's also doing harm to my clients' relationships and to their partners. And that whole, what I just described, again, when the opportunity came about to become a sex therapist, I was like, I got to do this, because healing can't stop at survival. There has to there has to be a way to include the capacity for pleasure and the ability to feel expansion and curiosity and desire and presence, which brings us here, which is to the place where I get to say, pleasure is not a luxury, it is information, and reclaiming pleasure. Reclaiming pleasure is not about indulgence, it's about the body saying, my aliveness matters and I get to feel this.